I've been keeping my eye on Atlas Fallen since the announcement at Gamescom 2022, so I was really stoked when Focus Entertainment and Deck13, the producer and developer, offered to let me play an early preview. A semi-open world action RPG coming to both PC and console. Atlas Fallen caught my eye as a potential fusion of some of my favorite games and game elements. The developers have stated they took inspiration from both Horizon and God of War, which is exciting since Zero Dawn and Forbidden West are totally my favorite games, and God of War is obviously a top-tier title as well. The post-apocalyptic world and design of the enemy beasts definitely give me the Horizon vibes, and I can see how the melee-based combat system with its focus on combos and powerful special attacks pulls from God of War. Although Atlas definitely adds something very unique with its verticality and fluid movement. A lot of people will also draw comparisons to Forespoken, which definitely had a mixed reception. Regardless of what you thought of that game overall, Forspoken's parkour mobility system was a lot of fun, and I think Atlas's mobility system, which includes sand surfing, super high double jumps, and air dashes, is even better. The preview confirmed for me that Atlas Fallen does indeed blend elements of all of these games, plus it adds a few of its own twists, such as the unique mobility system, what looks to be a satisfyingly complex array of gear and abilities, and the option to play a fully fledged co-op mode, something we don't see too often. A few quick notes before we get started. The preview build was on PC, but it was recommended to play with a controller as mouse and keyboard controls haven't been finalized yet. We also weren't allowed to record our own gameplay, so everything you'll see here either comes from pre-approved B-roll footage or clips I've pulled from official trailers or Deck13's recent insider video where they dove into some more details about the game. I'll link all of those videos below if you want to check them out. Okay, so my first impression from the reveal trailer was that mobility and combat looked really interesting, and after playing the preview for a little over 5 hours, I'm glad I can confirm that both are indeed a lot of fun. Instead of your typical sprinting, sand surfing is used to cruise around the map when on sand, and it's a fun way to traverse big open stretches of desert quickly as you explore. You'll need to explore upwards and cross huge chasms in the ground as well, and that's where even more unique movement mechanics come in. Starting the preview in the second main mission, I was already able to double jump super high into the air, and I quickly gained the ability to boost myself forward while floating with an air dash. Even just the first level of this ability combined with the double jump allowed me to span some huge gaps and access new areas, but later on, after enhancing my Gauntlet, I was able to do 2 air dashes in a row, extending the time I could stay in the air and making traversal even more interesting. That Gauntlet is a central part of the main story, and it's similar to Forspoken's Cuff, both housing a spirit who will help guide you on your journey and powering all of your mobility and combat abilities, which are tied closely together. Of course, sand surfing gives you a fast way to reposition in combat, but it can also enhance your primary and secondary weapon attacks, as they'll change to more powerful versions when triggered while surfing. This worked for both the axe and whip weapons I had access to, and I quickly realized that combos like this, as well as combos triggered by alternating weapons and chaining various types of attacks together, are a big part of combat. Combos were both fun to use and rewarding when executed properly, and even in my short time playing, I uncovered a number of different ones through experimentation, so there's a nice element of discovery and mastery here. The surfing combos are just horizontal though, and the really unique part of Atlas Fallen's combat system is how much verticality you have. Using either the double jump or a special launch attack that lifts you upwards, you can easily get into the air where you have a different angle on the enemies, called wraiths. You can even stay airborne indefinitely by alternating between landing hits and using the mid-air dash. Staying airborne is relatively simple, but doing so while also dealing damage effectively and blocking attacks is a fun challenge. Verticality also becomes important for larger wraiths, which have armor plates on different parts of their body that you need to destroy in order to kill them. Some of these plates are high up, so you need to get airborne to hit them. Altogether, I ran into a handful of different enemies in my short time with the game, each with unique movesets and vulnerabilities to discover and exploit. Based on what we've seen in the trailers, I think we can expect at least 5 to 10 more regular enemies as well as a variety of unique bosses and mini-bosses, so it seems like we'll have a pretty good variety. Parrying is also a very important element of combat, and instead of a regular shield, we again get a cool gauntlet-powered alternative here called the Sand Skin, a protective layer of sand that forms around your body. Parrying works just as you would expect though, with enemies telegraphing certain attacks with a red flash indicating when to hit the block button. When you nail it, you'll get a satisfying sound effect and the enemy briefly becomes crystallized, which immobilizes them and makes them more susceptible to damage. There's also unblockable blue attacks though, which you'll need to avoid either by dodging, air dashing, or cruising away with the sand surfing ability. If you get hit by these, you'll not only take damage, but they'll also drain your momentum bar, which is fairly punishing since momentum is a really important aspect of combat as well. The blue momentum bar has 3 levels and gets charged as you land hits. It's Atlas's take on the typical RPG stamina bar, but there's actually a few layers of functionality built into it. As it charges up, your hits deal more damage, but this is balanced by the fact that you'll also take more damage if you get hit. Each time the momentum bar reaches one of the 3 levels, your weapons will morph into more powerful versions. Plus, your moveset will evolve, and you'll also have an opportunity to use the Shatter ability, a special heavy attack that instantly crystallizes nearby enemies and deals a lot of damage. I can't think of another game that has a stamina bar that works quite like this, and I think it's a pretty cool system. Overall, while the combat system is, at its core, a hack and slash, elements like the armor plating zones on enemies, a full third vertical dimension to utilize, and the presence of so many different combos adds layers of complexity that I found both engaging and rewarding. To enhance your combat abilities, we have Essence Stones, which you can either find or craft after discovering their recipes. Essence Stones come in 3 tiers and can also be upgraded to enhance their abilities. They also come in 2 variants, passive ones that do things like increase your attack strength, and active ones that give you special attacks to use in combat. These special attacks operate on a cooldown system, and even in the few hours I was able to play, I found a decent variety of them. You also have a slot to equip an idol. The idols themselves each have a different passive boost, but they all function as your healing mechanism as well, building up as you land hits to give you charges you can consume to heal. You can imagine how having healing be dependent on landing hits really puts an aggressive slant on combat. Of course, there's a skill tree as well, which Atlas calls perks, and most of the perks could be upgraded 3 times. Coming off Hogwarts Legacy, I was really pleased to see that the perks in Atlas can be reset at any time, which is good because it seems like you'll rarely get the resources you need to unlock them. There's also different armor sets you can purchase from merchants to increase your stats, which are upgradable as well, and it appears you can customize the look of your armor with dyes, similar to how outfit dyeing works in Horizon, but with even more customization for 5 different zones of the outfit, as well as a slot for a cosmetic item, which I'm curious to find out more about. Altogether, we've got a nice variety of RPG gear and ability elements here that I think will be fun to dive into and will give a lot of options to create builds that suit your playstyle. Not everything about combat was perfect though. For example, I found it strange that the health bar wouldn't fully respawn passively when outside combat. Instead, I had to go to an anvil, Atlas's version of a campfire, and pay essence dust to heal. I couldn't really tell if this was a big deal or not. Maybe essence dust is plentiful and so healing is relatively cheap. I also saw that some of the perks would allow me to heal in other ways once unlocked, so maybe I just needed to be using some of those. Another major potential drawback with combat is that it's very loose. There really doesn't seem to be any finesse or subtlety to it. Like I said, despite having some really cool additional layers, at its core it's a hack and slash, and basically all of your attacks are so large and sweeping that you'll hit what you need to hit as long as you've got the character positioned close enough. Some players will like this a lot and others won't, and that just really comes down to your preference in game combat. I personally love the combat in Horizon because it rewards careful planning and accurate aiming, but I still found Atlas's combat a lot of fun, and a big part of that comes down to just how different it is with the mobility options and variety of combo moves to discover. I should also mention that there's 3 difficulty levels: easy, normal, and hard. I played about half the preview on normal and half on hard, swapping back and forth to test the difference, and I think they're in the right ballpark. Normal felt a little too easy to me, but that might just be because I only ran into a handful of enemy types. Hard did feel pretty hard, with much tighter parry windows and increased enemy damage. I am a bit worried that the hard difficulty could become a little too easy with upgraded gear though, so hopefully they have a plan to keep it challenging. I also have to admit that I wasn't a fan of the default controls on controller. Dodge was set to right bumper by default, and healing required holding left trigger and pressing X or A on an Xbox controller. That being said, it looks like we'll have full support for remapping both controller and keyboard bindings, which would be really nice. It's possible this was only present because it was a preview build, but I really hope they keep that option in the release version, particularly for controller. Graphics are another big topic, of course, and the couple of Atlas Fallen trailers that have been released so far definitely try to impress upon you an epic setting with high quality visuals. And while the rendered scenes in these trailers are, of course, higher quality than real gameplay, the game does look good overall. Don't get me wrong, you're not getting Horizon or a Plague Tale Requiem level graphics here, at least I don't think so based on the preview, but the landscape does look really good, is well designed, and is fun to explore. It seems like you can pretty much go wherever you can see, but access does depend on upgrading your abilities, namely the power of your Gauntlet to move larger obstacles like gates out of your way, raise sections of bridges spanning huge chasms, or boost you to the air with the air dash. Obstacles like chasms and gates divide up the map into a sort of network of islands, and I think this is why they're calling it a semi-open world. I don't think you'll ever be locked into a linear corridor like in God of War, but you will need to progress story missions and upgrade abilities in order to gain access to new areas. I think it's a good system actually. The few areas I did get to explore were a decent size, and there were a variety of ruins, caves, and enemy encounters scattered around each one, making them feel larger. So those of you that want a true open world should find enough to do that you don't feel too constrained, but players that enjoy a bit more direction will get that as well. Circling back to graphics though, it's worth noting that character and enemy attack animations looked really good too. Despite being fairly detailed with particle and lighting effects, they always ran really smoothly, which is important since combat is such a central element. I was a bit underwhelmed by the level of texture details on the landscape and structures, but it's very possible that these were just turned down or unfinalized in the preview build. Interestingly, I didn't have any graphics options to adjust outside of a single toggle for low, medium, high, or custom, and custom didn't reveal any additional settings. This was probably just a restriction in the preview though, and I expect the PC version will get the typical full set of graphical options to play with. It's not clear what graphics options we'll get on console, but I'm guessing we'll see the typical 30 FPS resolution mode and a 60 FPS performance mode. Hopefully Focus and Deck13 can confirm that soon. Slightly more concerning was the fact that the game ran at about 30 to 40 FPS, even on my 3080 Ti and 13900K. Don't read into this too much though. Again, it's an early preview build, and I actually suspect the build was locked into a fidelity or 40 FPS balance mode, reflecting console settings. I would expect the final version to be able to run much faster and on less powerful hardware, so hopefully the official recommended PC specs will be posted soon so we can get a better idea. Story and narrative are, of course, another big part of any RPG. In the preview, there was one cutscene that explained a bit of backstory, and I got some more bits of info from talking with NPCs, but I really wasn't able to learn much about the story. From what I have seen, my impression is that it will be fairly straightforward, and not something on the level of Horizon, God of War, or Plague Tale. Other narrative elements like interactions with NPCs appear to be pretty basic too. I got to interact with a bunch of NPCs, and this is where you see the signs that Atlas isn't a AAA title. The character models aren't bad, I'd say they're pretty average, but the facial animations leave a lot to be desired, and the dialogue lines and execution are often a bit awkward and lack depth. Granted, the characters I met were almost all minor NPCs, but I didn't find myself caring for any of them, and the dialogue options were pretty basic. It was also a bit strange how much the NPCs would move around while I was talking to them too, almost like they had a nervous twitch. Again, it's an early preview, so these things could improve, but I think you should be prepared for story, narrative, and character interactions to be weaker points of this game. Here's the thing though, I don't think Atlas is really trying to be a AAA title in those areas. I think Atlas is focused on having a really fun combat system, interesting and challenging enemies, and a good-looking world to explore, and from what I'm seeing, I think it's going to deliver on those things. The rest will probably just do what it needs to support those elements. Don't get me wrong, I'd love to see the story and other narrative elements surprise me at launch and turn out to have more depth and be more refined than they appear in the preview, but I don't think I need them to be. If you like the idea of a single A title with a unique, fun combat system, cool world to explore, and a satisfyingly complex gear and abilities system to unravel, then I would definitely keep your eye on Atlas Fallen. There's even more gameplay elements I didn't get to explore much in the preview, like the full character creator that lets you create a custom male or female character, environmental puzzles and treasure maps hidden around the world, and collectible artifacts to uncover. The game is set to release on May 16th for PC, PS5, and Xbox Series S and X for $50 on Steam and $60 on consoles. That date is just 4 days after Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, so if anyone at Focus or Deck13 watches this, I think I can speak for many of us when I say we'd be fine with you taking another month or two to polish if you could use it. It would also be nice to see an additional gameplay or story trailer soon, as the recent gameplay trailer was pretty short, although it seems like Deck13's Inside series will be covering more details on the game as well, so people can keep an eye out for those. I'd also love to see more info on the co-op mode, as we haven't seen much on that yet. Overall, the preview has definitely got me excited to see more of Atlas Fallen, and I'll make sure to bring you guys any big updates here on YouTube and over on my Discord server as well. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.